This guy, he was one of the worst. He looked like she's like without makeup. And he just gave every one of his answers was a non-answer.
All right, ready to go?
Okay, are we ready, everyone?
It's a
Are we ready? Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 7:04. And first thing, do we have any questions or comments from the floor?
No, we do not.
Okay, then we'll move on to presentations. And the first thing will be a high school student history presentation. Take it away, Nick.
The history department just wanted me to read an email that they sent. Just says, thank you for taking time to be part of Cleaver's presentation. Unfortunately, we have a presentation of our own tonight. We're unable to be here, but we're so proud to have him and Mr. Watt represent our class. As a history department, we're extraordinarily proud of the work our students do and the teamwork that is involved to bring the best in our student community, best out of our student community. We are so amazed by the quality and the maturity of Keebler's project that we wanted to highlight his efforts in tonight's meeting so you can see in real time how our school represents individuals of all backgrounds in a variety of ways. We've also had the privilege of witnessing Mr. Watt's expertise and his devotion to helping students like Cleaver, have a direct impact on the success of our students and wanted to highlight his efforts as well. Once again, thank you for taking a vested interest in our classes and our team of students and teachers. Sincerely, the history department. All set.
So once this gets going.
Oh, they're little on.
One thing, could I just ask before you get started with the presentation? Cleaver, could you just introduce yourself and talk about your history and where you come from?
¿Puedes discutir tu nombre y tu historia? ¿De dónde eres? Todos los miembros.
Muy buenas noches, mi nombre es Clever Enrique Vázquez Pérez, soy de Guatemala.
Good evening, my name is.
A little louder, Ed.
Good evening, my name is Clever Enrique Vázquez Perez. I'm from Guatemala.
Bueno, ahora me toca dar mi presentación sobre acerca de terrorismo.
I'm going to give my presentation about terrorism. 7 minutos.
Bueno, como pueden ver aquí en la imagen está Talibán, lo que pasó en Afganistán en 2021.
Here you can see an example of terrorism, the Taliban in Afghanistan in 2021.
Como pueden ver acá, las personas están saliendo de sus países.
The people here are trying to escape from their country.
Lo que pasó, la tragedia en Nueva York en 2001 en Nueva York.
So here on the right you can see the attack on New York City in 2001. The picture on the left is a result of the picture on the right.
Tras la caída de las Torres Gemelas en Nueva York.
And then again in the picture on the right you can see the attack on the Twin Towers.
También como pueden ver aquí fue la tragedia de el aire atómico en Japón en 1995.
And here you can see a chemical attack on the train in Japan in 1995.
I'm sorry, on what?
And a chemical attack on the trains in Japan in 1995.
También pueden ver en la imagen que lo que pasó en Boko Haram en Nigeria 2014 tras la secuestración de las estudiantas como grupo religioso.
Okay, and so here you can see Boko Haram is a religious group in 2014 that kidnapped a group of female students.
También pueden ver acá la imagen de las sandinistas en Nicaragua en 1960, grupos políticos.
And in the last image, you can see the Sandinistas were a political group in Nicaragua in the 1960s.
Bueno, lo que ellos quieren. Bueno,
Okay. So what do terrorists want?
Creer miedo, porque miedo es la madre de odio.
Okay. To create fear, because fear is the mother of hate.
Y con odio un líder en movimiento puede justificar cualquier cosa.
And with hate, a leader or movement can justify anything.
Como también pueden ver acá en la imagen, la caída del avión en Nueva York, en las Torres Gemelas.
So in the first image, you can see the Al-Qaeda's attack on New York, with the planes having crashed into the Twin Towers.
Las muertes que pueden ver como acá, lo que pasó en las vías del tren en Japón.
Here you can see victims of the chemical attack in the train in Japan.
Este es un chaleco de bombas.
So on here we can see an example of a suicide jacket.
Como grupos terroristas de Segunda Guerra Mundial. Talibán, grupo religioso y político.
Okay, so here we have a list of examples of terrorist groups following the Second World War.
Como pueden ver acá en el mapa pueden ver tres tipos de grupos de terrorismo.
And here in the map, as we can see related to the list, there are three main types of groups of terrorists.
Como pueden ver acá en este punto rojo está el grupo de drogas como es la M.
Okay, so here in South and Central America, we can see examples of drug groups such as la M or the Mexican Mafia.
Y también pueden ver acá la punto rojo que es de grupos políticos y religiosos.
Okay, so in other parts of the world, we can see examples of attacks from political and religious groups.
Y también es uno de los como tipo religiosos islam.
Okay, so for example, there are various terrorist groups with Islamic backgrounds. Okay.
¿Por qué es una gran consecuencia de llegar a terrorismo?
Okay, so why do people want to become terrorists and what consequences lead to that?
Por ejemplo, todo el mundo quiere una vida con propósitos.
Okay, everyone wants a life with purpose.
Si te falta esperanza, trabajo y amor, apoyo, odias a los demás con esas cosas.
If you lack hope, work, love, and support, you come to hate those that have them.
Si alguien te da esas cosas, harías cualquier cosa por ellos.
And if someone offers those things to you, you'll do anything for them.
Como pueden ver acá, la pobreza, lo que puede ser hambruna, contaminación.
And some problems that people are facing are poverty, hunger, and pollution.
Bueno, lo que podemos ver acá que en mi clase de historia estudiamos lo que es como, por ejemplo, un río que pasa por medio de países demasiado ricos y lleva a países de dinero bajos.
Okay, and in my history class, we've studied other problems that work like a river where problems flow from countries with too much to countries that are poor.
Es una simple razón que las personas se vuelven terroristas porque no pueden salir adelante en un país que es pobreza, hambruna, contaminación.
And that's a big reason for people to become terrorists if they live in countries they can't escape from and they're facing these kinds of issues.
El mundo es peor que antes, sabemos porque la contaminación es peor, el calentamiento global y pues el grupo terrorismo es mucho más aumentado en el mundo de ahora.
Okay, so terrorism in the world today is worse because of issues like pollution and global warming, internet también.
Y también las personas suelen encontrarse más por medios de internet, pues también el terrorismo es mucho más para convertirse hoy en día.
It's easier to become a terrorist nowadays because you can find different groups on the internet. And again, with the problems that people face, it's easier to connect with other groups.
Bueno, espero que les haya gustado mi presentación. Esta ha sido mi presentación en esta noche, en que es mi tercera presentación en mi vida. Pero...
Okay, so I said I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. It's only the third presentation of my life.
Una pregunta. Did you see any of these problems in Guatemala before you left?
Experiencia, problemas como este en Guatemala antes de venir aquí. Yep.
Explicar, por favor.
Sí. Los grupos como por ejemplo desde drogas en Guatemala son más afectados como por ejemplo drogas, posición de tipos de territorio, maras y maras salvatrucha, lo que es más conocido en Guatemala.
So in Guatemala, there are drug groups that fight for territory, like Mara Salvatrucha. So,
Bueno, siempre se ha armado un conflicto entre donde yo vivo, mi municipio es Cuilco y mi departamento es BOE,
So, ¿dónde vivas?
Cuilco.
Sí, Cuilco.
Mi departamento es como decir
Cuilco is where he lived, and those problems do exist.
Sí. Está conformado con varios, allá se les dice cárteles a las maras de drogas o de armas.
Okay, and then you have cartels that spread both drugs and weapons.
Lo que más se maneja allá en Guatemala, en donde yo vivo, es la droga.
And the main problem where he lived was drugs.
Y pues la contaminación siempre ha sido muy potente en Guatemala y también mucho acoso.
And pollution is also a very big problem in Guatemala.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Nice job.
Okay, if there's no other questions, the next presentation is East Hill Foreign Language Program.
Good try.
Okay, thank you, Eddie.
There it is.
Gracias.
Oh, no, stay with us. Looks like though. Thank goodness Chris is here.
Oh.
I just.
Hey, look what they wanted.
I look like him.
I'm concerned. This looks like a problem.
That's important. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So, good evening. I'm here to present about Dynalingo, which is the program that we use for students to learn Spanish and French. And then I also have some clips in here from classrooms where teachers are using sign language, American Sign Language, and they had presentations from people that came to visit the school. One came from Spain, and I also have a class in kindergarten that does some things in the morning, their morning greeting, which is my favorite part of the day. They always have the same greeting and it involves different languages. So I also have that to share with you tonight too. So the first is going to be the kindergarten classroom. So that's one of our kindergarten classes. Every morning they have the same message to do a morning greeting to everybody. And it's, again, one of my favorite parts of the day. And then when I'm done greeting the kindergarten, I move on to first grade. And they have a sign language that they do greeting every morning.
Can you turn it up even more?
Yeah, I think your computer. You got yours, can you turn up now?
The audio isn't hooked to them. No idea. I don't think it's hooked up. For some reason, I don't think it's connected.
Shame, can't hear that. Just noise.
I'll share it with you, okay, so then you can hear it. Okay, and now moving on, I have a fourth grade class, or a third grade class, I'm sorry. A third grade class, so in Miss Logan's class, she's a social studies and science teacher. And this year, she invited a guest from Spain. He's a doctor. I guess he spent a summer here with the Smiths. And so he came back to visit, and Ariana and her family have kept in touch with him. So he came and did a presentation, and on the board they're learning how to speak the days of the week in Spanish. And so he was there for the day, and he met with the kids and had a great day with the kids in third grade, because he was able to meet with every single group of third graders. And then in fifth grade, every year, Anne-Marie Craig does a unit on the Chinese New Year, and they've had parades in the building. They created this dragon that's hanging in Miss Craig's classroom. So it's a really nice unit that she does about the Chinese New Year. So that's one way that we incorporate some learning of global events that take place throughout the world. This is a picture in library. The children are using Dino Lingo. And I did ask the children, what do you like about Dino Lingo? So I had some children share their responses. Hopefully you'll be able to hear them.
Let me try mine.
If we go to another country,
People
don't understand us because we speak English. So they speak Spanish about Dino Lingo and Spanish words, because if we go to another country,
No, you don't.
No, keep that open.
people don't understand us because we speak English. So they speak Spanish, so they won't understand us. So what about fourth grade? We learn Spanish and Dino Lingo. That helps us speak Spanish in the other countries.
What I like about Dino Lingo is like if you go to like a different state and let's say you're working on Spanish, like in Florida, there's a lot of people that speak Spanish. So if you go there and let's say if you're going to like a fast food restaurant and they like speak Spanish, you can also speak Spanish too. And it's also a good start for kids to learn Spanish or whatever thing you do, because I'm pretty sure they have almost all local languages. And probably is a good start for like second or third graders.
Dino Lingo helps me speak Spanish, so I can speak to my workers on my farm, so I can communicate with them when I run the farm.
So I like doing Dino Lingo because I've always wanted to learn Spanish, and I only know a little bit, and I like how when it teaches you something, it's just like a little video, a little lesson about it, kind of like when you're in a classroom and your teacher's telling you. And I like that because it kind of helps me understand what they're doing, and I like how they show pictures of what it is, because that helps me understand so much of what it is. And I like how they say it, because then you know how to pronounce it. And because sometimes it's like you read it and you think it's said one way, but it's really said a different, like in some people's names. But that's why I really like Dino Lingo.
Okay. So those were fourth grade students. So these are some second grade students. They're practicing the Spanish while they're in the library. A lot of the time they're practicing with Dino Lingo when they go to library. This is a student learning about animals. This is a student playing a matching game on Dino Lingo. And then I also included in first grade, they created these great little tickets for kids to carry so they know what their classroom code is and their student code is to log on to the program. And that's it. It was short and sweet. I'm sorry that you couldn't hear it. I will share it to you if you have any questions.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
The earlier they start, the better.
I'm sorry, are the kids able to speak Spanish at all at this point?
I wouldn't say they can speak Spanish, maybe simple words, but not hold conversations. So they learn, like they were doing a lesson on animals, so they were learning how to say Spanish word, animals in Spanish. So I wouldn't say they can communicate like with another person in Spanish, but at least we're getting them exposed to a different language at a young age. And I also like the fact too that not only are we using Dino Lingo, but we're also incorporating, language and cultures within our classrooms too, on top of doing the Dino Lingo. So I think it's great.
And how often do they get to engage with the program?
They engage with it more likely when they're going to library. Sometimes they can also log on in their classrooms, but our day is pretty busy. So when they have some time within their schedule, whether they're doing centers in the classroom, they can log on to Dino Lingo. But primarily they've been using it a lot in library because Ms. Barnett has helped me with getting the kids logged on, and she's sort of facilitated it for me. So that's when they're primarily using it. So, okay. I'll share this though in my board, the presentation with the board updates.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Hey, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Okay, the next thing is the science department. Take it away, science department.
Just go now. Look there.
No, it's gonna be.
It's a PC, it'll play nicer.
Oh, there you go.
So we come to, should we start by introducing ourselves? Just to
Yes,
make it
please.
official? I'm John Sunderland. I teach high school chemistry and forensic science. That typically fits into our pathways as like a third year science, earth science, biology, chemistry. Students who don't choose to take the chemistry pathway can often engage in forensic science as their third year science. We get a huge range of student types taking forensics.
I'm Troy Whitaker. I teach Regents biology as well as AP biology. So Regents bio fits into second year or freshman year for advanced students. And AP is typically seniors. I think it's always seniors at this school. And it has prerequisites of chemistry as well as biology. Because it's a college level course, they have to have that background to be able to take it. So they typically take it senior year. And it usually takes that maturity level as well. So it's the highest of the sciences that we offer.
I'm Carly Coretta. I teach earth science and physics. Earth science is offered to the 9th graders, and physics is right now offered to seniors. And we're hoping to get that geared towards the advanced 11th graders and the seniors that weren't on the advanced science track, so that they all have a chance to take it.
I'm Cecilia Boyce. I teach Science 8 and I teach a section of Advanced Earth Science. region.
I'm Melissa Fisher. I'm the other Regents biology teacher, and I also teach anatomy and physiology. Regents level, I have the advanced 9th graders and 10th graders, and then for anatomy and physiology, it's generally 11th grade as kind of a prerequisite to get into AP biology. But I also have a couple seniors too.
And I'm Kathleen Barman. I teach 7th grade science. I teach life science at the 7th grade level and an accelerated program to get them ready to take Regents. And it's a little bit more intense, but the same content. That's all of us.
And so we thought what we would share is kind of what's happening in the world of science. We have new standards, next generation science standards, and New York State science learning standards. And so we will each speak briefly about that a little bit. So the old standards, black and white, list of everything you're supposed to know. So now we have color, so get ready for your acronyms. NGSS, which stands for Next Generation Science Standards, and as you can see has 3 major components. DCIs, disciplinary core ideas, CCCs, cross-cutting concepts. This one got shortchanged. It's actually science and engineering practices, SEPs. So the NGSS is composed of DCIs, CCCs, and SEPs. But wait, there's more. NISLS, New York State Science Learning Standards. So the great state of New York decided that the NGSS was a good idea, but had to put our tweak on it because we are the Empire State. So NISLS and NGSS are closely aligned, but there are a few differences. This is what the new standards look like, again, colors. So similar in that the top of it is, these would be like your major understandings. And there are some clarification statements, that's what's in the red, which is helpful. There's some assessment boundaries, which is also in the red, which is helpful. The highlighted part, that's where like New York State comes in. So these are NGSS standards with some additional fun added from NISLS. And then the bottom half of that document, as you can see, has those 3 areas. The big idea being that this used to be where we would live pretty much in the content world. And we're trying to, through NGSS, broaden that a little bit so it's not just about science content, it's also about what do scientists do? What are some science and engineering practices? And then as we are studying our DCIs, cross-cutting concepts, there should be common threads throughout all the units. And so those are the 3 big areas in the NGSS and NISLS standards. That leads to 3D learning, which some of my colleagues will speak about as we proceed.
So we are currently in the process of trying to, with New York State, roll out these new standards. So we are currently right here. So the 4th grade science test will not be given this year, with preparation for the science test being moved to 5th grade next year. And the 8th grade intermediate science test will also be given next year. The spring of 2024, June of 2025, we will have the earth science and biology regents exams switched over to the next gen standards, and then June 2026 will be the first chemistry and physics regents exams.
Excuse me, is this the first year that this has been rolled out, this new science? Okay.
That's all I have.
Oh, yes. So next year, we have 4 new science labs. So in place of the old lab practical type thing that the 8th graders had to do, the 12-minute stations, and they had 3 different stations, that's gone. And now we're gonna have 4 labs, kind of similar to the biology regents where they have 4 state mandated labs. So these 4 labs will be given throughout middle school. So they're all mixed up. It's alive, energy cool it, and how's the weather up there? So this is basically the kids are going to do what scientists do, but on middle school level. And we plan to have our 8th graders have all of these labs for next year. So next year's gonna be a time crunch, yay. But these are the new labs. We're proposing that the first one will be 6th grade, The second one will be the 7th grade, and then leaving the last 2 for the 8th grade year.
But next year, 8th grade
Next
is
year,
gonna
we're
have
gonna do
all
it all.
4, right?
Yes, we're gonna do it all.
Yeah.
How long
Yes.
have they been out?
They were just released.
Just released.
October.
Of course.
The names of them were released in June, but the actual labs.
That's what I was
Yes.
wondering. A lot of times
October.
they'll say, oh, you have to do it, but I'm only giving you 3 right now. So,
Yes.
The elementary also has to do 4 by the time they graduate or leave.
How
fifth
does
grade.
this differ from what you're doing now?
So I haven't had to experience a state mandated lab. So this is all new to me. Reading them is a lot. It's a little overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I do mini labs, but these are big scale. Like, these are like 2, 3, 4, 5 days worth of classes for each one of these, is what I'm thinking. I think it might be more, might be less, depending on the group.
And it has to be reported to the state, correct, that they've completed these?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. And that's the difference, because they didn't
Before I
have to
didn't
do
have
that,
to,
yeah.
I didn't have to keep labs except for earth science, so this is a whole new,
So will the test have questions on these 4 labs?
yes, just like the living environment.
Are you seeing this as a step forward?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm gonna try out the how's the weather up there this year to see how long it's really gonna take me with my 8th graders this year, so we'll see how it goes.
I hope you do better than the US Weather Bureau, that's all I got to say.
Thank you. I hope so too.
So the future of science education has us going, kind of shifting toward what they call teaching through phenomena. So phenomena is anything that's observable, that the students can see a picture of something or see an event occur and kind of formulate questions about it, maybe start to design their own experiment to investigate a real world problem that kind of brings them more into like the science world that we're trying to get them in. So basically it's a shift in learning, whether it's about a topic that we're talking about right now, to investigating why or how something happens. So instead of learning about photosynthesis, cell respiration, and mitosis, students can develop an explanation based on observable evidence for how a tree grows based off of those 3 content topics. So it allows them to kind of be more involved in their science learning versus us teaching them just the content. So for example, here is a phenomena that the teacher could show based off of chemical reactions in middle school. Students can observe here that just the juice from an orange rind can make a balloon pop. They further learned that the juice is actually flammable, so it could cause them to ask certain questions like, how is this juice flammable? What's kind of happening with the chemical reaction in this process? And of course we can incorporate the different cross-cutting concept questions, talking about what's going on at the unobservable level to cause these observable processes, or under what conditions is this particular phenomenon stable, and under what conditions can it actually change. So it really allows them to take ownership in their science education instead of just rote memorization of the topics.
Have you engaged in this type of approach yet?
I have not yet. I am looking to, in the spring, the last couple topics that I'm teaching, kind of moving toward more of this phenomena-based teaching, kind of get my feet wet a little bit with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So along with the whole change in Regents tests, right, comes a different way in which we deliver our lessons, okay? So as Melissa was alluding to, it's based primarily on phenomena. And so here what they have is 3D lesson planning with NGSS storylines, and that's kind of the way that's been tried and tested here over the last 5, 6, 7 years in other states. And what they found is if you take the cross-cutting concepts, the CCCs, right, and then you take the science and engineering practices, and you have them meet in the middle with the disciplinary core ideas, which is the content that we typically taught, you have this happy place right here in the middle which is the performance expectations. And I think John was showing you the different standards right here. So high school physical science, use the periodic table as a model using this part to predict the relative, so that's content, properties of elements based on the patterns of the electrons, that's the CCCs. So it's bringing all of these different things together to meet in the middle. So how does that lead into our 3D lesson planning? All right, forgot to hit the buttons, but we just started talking. Right, so science engineering practices are going to engage the students in inquiry, like she was talking about, and cross-cutting concepts that connect the different areas of science. So biology connects to physical science, connects to physics, connects to earth science, okay, everything's connected. Then you have your disciplinary core ideas, which is the content we've always taught, mitosis, or rocks, or whatever it is that our science teachers, right? So, that's the earth systems, there you go. So where does NGSS storylines come in? Okay, it comes in like this. You give it a phenomenon, like she was just showing. Then you have students ask questions. It's not the teacher asking the questions, it's the students. And you get yourself a nice board, and you put some sticky notes, and you write all of these student questions down, and you pin them up on the board, okay? Then you have different activities that are planned to start investigating the phenomenon. Now it looks to the kids like you're investigating their questions, but really you knew what their questions were gonna be before they asked them, okay? So you have this all prepped and ready to go. And you start investigating these different questions. You're like, see, answer Billy's question today, let's go. Then the students are going to use science and engineering practices to answer the question. They make their models, they make their I don't know, do their labs or whatever, right? Then you're going to have students obtaining a piece of the disciplinary core idea, and it can come back around. So they get a piece of that content, then they're going to ask more questions once they have more understanding. Student obtains the piece of cross-cutting concept. They're going to ask more questions. And it just keeps going around and around and around until you get to assessment. Okay, so storylines provide a coherent student-driven learning experience because it aligns with the real-world phenomena as a basis. Okay, and it encourages students to ask questions and then seek answers. So a phenomenon example like she was showing, another way you could go in biology, dogs, right? We all love dogs. How did dogs become all of the different breeds that we have today? Okay, so you can actually engage in a four-week storyline that is all about dogs and how they became what we know them as today. And it would engage in multiple standards across not just evolution, but selective breeding and genetics and all of these other topics that usually are taught in little units all by themselves. But now you're hitting all of the standards in one unit. Okay, so it really brings all of it together. Okay, so that's basically the NGSS storylines. Any questions? There you go.
All right, so where are all these wonderful things happening, the 3D learning, the phenomenon, I'm just going to run through the classes that we're teaching, and all of us are trying our hardest to implement all of these new things. It is a lot, but we're ready to go. So 6th grade physical science, that's taught in parallel with the tech classes. 7th grade life science, it's basic biology, so all students get life science, although we do have an advanced track that they're getting ready to take the Regents the next year, so it's more intense, more information, although the same topic. 8th grade, we teach earth science and Regents earth science, so there's our advanced track again. Once we get to the high school classes, Regents earth science, living environment, chemistry, physics. Our Regents classes, then we have AP bio, which as a parent, just saying, it saves a lot of time and money for our students going off to college. Applied physics, great class for kids going into the trades because not all kids are going to College Avenue. Anatomy and physiology, anyone interested in anything to do with medical. And forensics, even actors, aspiring actors and actresses. There's always a forensic scientist on the show. Where we would like to go and emphasize is encourage encourage more science learning. I think we can all sit here and whatever student we have in front of us, tell them how their goals, their aspirations relate to science. So the classes that we currently have, we would love to keep, but we would like to see possibly a 2-year Regents Earth Science class, just to make sure we can get all the kids through Earth Science, either a chemistry in the classroom or environmental science class. We know that the Learning 2025 pathways are coming, and science fits right in there with many, many of those pathways. And as I said, more college, more AP, just to get those kids a step up when they get into colleges, make sure that they're competitive with all the kids coming from many other states, many other schools, and getting them a step up when they start their college careers or trade schools. Any questions for any of us?
I have a question as usual. No, I was just wondering, do you think that this approach that you're getting into will give you more opportunity to engage in science of the world? Things like global warming, pandemics, things of those nature that kids can relate to and that they see on TV and all that make science real for them.
Well, with the phenomenon, as Troy was saying, we ask them to ask questions. So they're asking questions and what they see, what they experience, what they're interested in. So definitely it's bringing in real world problems and what their life is.
And do you think this will enhance that ability to do that?
I've seen entire storylines that are just based on bacterial resistance and takes it through evolution, genetics, and all kinds of things like that. I've seen ones that have to do with cancer, which hits home for a lot of people, but it really goes in depth and explains how it all works and why. I mean, the storylines can be really powerful if they're done right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just to finish, I just want to share with you that on Tuesday we had Jennifer Marshall from BOCES came and spent some time with us. And wow, by the end of that hour, she shared a lot, and some of it we were familiar with and some of it we weren't, but there was so much. But by the end of it, it's easy for our heads to be spinning, and probably your heads are spinning with all the acronyms and just the shift from like these standards that we've known for years and years and years to not just new standards, but a new way of doing things. That can be really unsettling for teachers, scary. But by the end of our hour with Jennifer, these guys were talking about, I think I'm going to try this. I think I'm going to try that. I'm going to take this whole unit and I'm going to do it differently. They're talking about doing that right now. So I walked out of that really encouraged by the bravery of these people, that they're willing and eager to take that leap. So I'm encouraged, and I think you all should be too.
Monday on 5 minutes. Doing it. Today, great science. Monday.
All right, just to piggyback off of that, the HF and BOCES hired instructional coaches, and this year we sat with the department chairs and said, what do you guys think you need in terms of professional development coming in? Each one of the department chairs designed what we could do, and then we worked with HF and BOCES to break that down, because you get 6 days with HF and BOCES. But we had to break it down in terms of each department, and then coming in at a department meeting or a PD day, and they really facilitated all of what we needed, from ELA to science to math to social studies, and they did a really nice job of having somebody come in and give them the PD that you're talking about. It's been well received. I sat in a math one, I sat in ELA, and people were really, like I said, overwhelmed, but at the end felt like, oh yeah, I can do this. Maybe I can do this. So glad you said that. I was interested to see how that made out the other day. So it's paying off, which is nice.
Okay, very exciting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, then the next thing is for discussion is the 23-24 budget.
Yes. In your sheet, you can open up. I just have to turn it a little bit. Thank you.
He overestimates us.
That's upside down. Keep turning. Keep turning.
See, I don't have that.
Yeah, I can't do that on mine either.
Oops.
Move on.
Get rid of that.
Look at mine, it's too.
Pretty good.
I can't turn it on the iPad, so. Or maybe I can and I don't know how. So.
Do you have, Heidi, do you have the sheet?
I can look on.
Oh, you got it.
I can see
Just say
signs.
rotate.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just do, I'll find it. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Watch this.
No, I can see side by side. I don't have a problem.
There you go.
Yeah.
Turn your computer right.
Fine, yeah. French.
So what we have is. All set?
Safari?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm on Chrome, actually.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, you can look at mine.
Okay, I can see side by side. I'm good. I'm really good.
We have a proposed, preliminary budget. We're still waiting for health insurance results to come back, but the rest of it seems to be pretty clear at this point in terms of where we're heading. I don't know if Leah, you want to elaborate a little bit on some of the budget.
Yeah, this is the latest draft of the budget. Like Dr. Nick said, we don't have health insurance, but I believe the number we have in there will cover the increase that we think it's going to be. And then since the last version, I went in and added all the additions that we have talked about over the last 2 months or so. So the additions in here are 2 full-time teachers that to fill those residencies that we were talking about, which we're gonna go over after I talk about this. We're gonna go over the residency program. 0.5 FTE for the E&L teacher due to the student needs.
And that E&L teacher was Mr. Watt today.
Mr. Watt was just up here.
I think she's at the main page.
In addition, or actually keeping the East Hill counselor that we have now for another year, continuing 5 days a week at East Hill. And then the addition of a half music teacher, which is Mr. Anchor, keeping him full-time instead of splitting him with Wheelerville. 3 AIS teachers and 1 special ed teacher for 1 more year to help the students. Most of that was paid through the ARPA grant the last 2 years, so we're gonna do that for 1 more year. And then we talked about the food service director at 2.5 days a week, but that comes out of our school lunch budget, not this budget. But that was an addition that we talked about in our meetings. So the budget right now is up 1.9 million. The year after next year, the budget should not have that high of an increase because of those one-time additions.
So we have the residencies that we're talking about, the teachers going out into the working world and bringing that back. That'll be a 1-year thing. After that, we're adding the 3 IS teachers for an additional year to give those supports coming back from COVID. We're seeing students still struggle a little bit. The ENL is, again, student-based, so that's something that could change year to year. And then we feel the music tech program at the middle school will help us fill the needs that we have there, but plus also get a valued a teacher that we've had here for years with us full-time. So it kind of does 2 things for us, and I think we can kind of help build our music program and our tech program at the same time. The food service is obvious because we shared our food service director with Fort Plain, and they made a full-time position in Fort Plain. She'll be moving over there. And very hard to find a 2.5-day food service director, but Capital Region BOCES runs a program, and they serve 24 school districts. So we'll have the ability to garner, I think, larger menus, more robust menus for the high school, and the middle school and elementary, but I think more of the high school. And we'll also have the ability to have more buying power because there's 24 school districts buying things, as opposed to 1 or 2 districts. So I think it will overall help us. We lose a very valuable person, and we're meeting with them again as we come back from April break to go over everything moving in the future. And their fees are aidable, so the fee comes out about the same as what we're paying right now for 2.5 days of our current food service director. The other thing too, if you remember, we talked about in the last meeting, was our debt service. In order to not have a negative tax cap, we moved some of our debt service over to this year or next year, and that won't be as large the following year as well. So where you see a $1.9 million increase, you won't see that next year. That'll be, taken back, which will be great because we'll start to bank some funds for the following year because we won't see a big foundation data increase next year. And that was the big piece. If you look at the second page where it says revenue, it says foundation aid of $1.2 million. That won't happen in the future, meaning we won't get another $1.2 million. We'll probably level off back where we were of a couple $100,000. So I feel with this budget, we're able to do a couple things. Continue our Learn in 2025 initiatives, fulfill obligations that we need for the ENL and the counseling to help give the mental health services that we feel that we need, secure again a valued employee and help build our technology and our music program, and give the services that we need to our students, and at the same time, really hone in on science and math at the high school to put a special education teacher up there to help some of our students who are struggling in those areas as well. And in the meantime, like we said, bank money for the following year so we know expenses will be there. It'll be there for us the following year. And this only puts us at a 1.6% tax increase, which on the average of 3 years, we've only gone up about 1.5% in 3 years. So we've kept our taxes low for our community, at the same time giving opportunities to our students and continue our programs. So until we get the health insurance, this will probably be what we're looking for at the budget. And then Leah, you can go over the revenues if you wanted to, that are on the next page, which are broken down.
Yeah, the next page is just more detail of the summary page of all the revenues and the categories. It's just more detail of that summary page.
You can see where every one of our dollars comes in from.
And the bottom half of those numbers are all the state aid numbers, broken out more.
Any questions with that so far? Again, I think an overall very good budget that gives services back to our students. Again, helps continue instructional help for our students after the ARPA grants are done. And I think the residency piece, which is in the next 2 pages, is an opportunity for our teachers to apply, to go out and do a number of things. Visit model schools, go and do internships in organizations that we will use hopefully for our high school academies the year later. So what we'll do is start to develop relationships with the internship organizations and companies. So when we put the high school academies in the following year, we've already established that relationship with the companies. And then bring that information back to teachers and what they're seeing in the working world to help with instruction and our students. In the meantime, they'll also help mirror students and kind of visualize what they're seeing in the classroom and help to kind of continue our progress of transforming our instruction to meet the needs of 21st century. As we always say, and I always say this, our kindergarten kids are going to graduate in 2035. Think about that number for a second. We don't even know what that looks like. And we're educating our kids for a world we have no idea what it's going to be. So we've got to think outside the box and really think much differently. We're doing great things, and transforming some of the stuff that we're doing to help our students will only help progress that for that 2035 year and the reality. So the residency program, if we approve it with the budget, what we'll do is we'll clean it up, make sure we have everything in place. We'll do an information meeting to talk about what it entails, and we'll allow teachers to apply for the positions, and we'll go through interviews. So actually 2 teachers will go on a full year leave of absence to go do these things.
Do you know where they're going to go?
We're working right now with Montgomery County and Montgomery County, Fulton County Chamber of Commerce to build those internship areas, and hopefully by the end of April we'll have those areas areas and locations where we're gonna go. We just developed where we're looking for the academies like health services and technology, and we're looking to build and bridge those gaps of where those internships would be to help those academies. So we'll send those teachers there.
So you said that these additions would just be a short-term thing, but are you talking about just the residencies for next year?
The
That's it?
residencies and the 3 IAS positions will be an additional one more year, and then
One
they'll
more year.
fade out. The three, the ones that we had for the, through the ARPA grant
Right.
that were added in, we're gonna go another year with them to give them another year of help. And then,
But just talk about the residencies, so.
residencies will be a 1 year thing.
So there's just 2 people and that's it? And
Correct.
never,
Yeah.
not again and again and again?
Well, we'll have to decide that in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be something we can look at as a board and decide if something we wanna continue.
Okay.
Yep. So, and it could be, you know, if we get enough applicants, we might do 4 half years.
Mhm.
You know.
So two in the fall, 2 in the spring.
Correct. We'll see how all that works out. Okay. So, Baldwin School District did this with 16 of their educators. And it was, they said that the response and the information they got back, and just a holistic approach, differently looking at things. Because a lot of our educators, not by any fault or admission, have just been educators. They haven't been in the working world in terms of maybe accounting or health services and things of that nature that our students will see, and this will allow us to bring that back to students and teachers as well.
Do we have like a PE health teacher that could go into the health field? Like, do we have like this Kat, Kat Subtle?
We'll have to see, yeah, who applies in terms of, yeah. It'll be interesting to see the application process and what the fit is. It's gonna be different, it's not gonna be your teaching for the year, but it's gonna give you an opportunity to really kind of branch out and do something totally different, but bring it back to education, which is pretty cool. It's gonna kind of transform what we can bring back to our students and our faculty. So that's our budget at this point. Is there any questions? So tax levy, pretty good. Overall programming increased. And, banking some funds for the following year to make sure we can start to meet the demands. Here's what's gonna happen. Once foundation aid has been fully funded, foundation aid, by the way, if people out there, is the money that we get from the state to help offset costs for our districts. New York State took money back in 2008 from every district, and they finally fully funded it next year. So that took them, 15 years to fund it. And after that happens, it's gonna be a new aid formula. So what's gonna happen is they're already projecting only $1 billion to school districts the following year compared to $3 billion this year. So you can start to see the decrease in funds of what's gonna end up happening. In a small rural district that's not going up in enrollment, it's gonna be, I think, on that fringe of only getting the minimum, because they're gonna say, why do you keep needing funding if your enrollment's not continuing to increase? So it's gonna be interesting to see what ends up happening, but I wouldn't bank on large increases in the future anytime soon after this year. So, and our costs continually go up $500,000 to $700,000 a year. So we've got to offset that with expense revenues. So, any questions per se?
Okay, thank you. And looks like a positive outlook for the budget, hopefully. So we'll move on to approvals. There's amended corrective action plan.
No, you guys already approved this back in November, but when it was submitted to the state, they didn't like the wording, so we had to change the wording. It says the same thing, just in a different way.
They want you to put exact
And then
dates.
the board has to approve it again.
I make a
Maybe
motion
they'll
that we
accept
approve
this
it.
time.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then we have the Four Winds agreement. Anything different there?
It's the same.
Any questions about that? Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll go on to personnel. Appoint a foreign language teacher. Is that exciting or what?
Yes. We had 2 retirees who are going to be missing 60 years of experience leaving us, and in a field that is very tough to get. extremely tough. It made the whole administration kind of worried when we had 2 people retire. I'm extremely happy to find that we found 2 teachers, one French and one Spanish, and who have experience, who want to come to a smaller district.
We approved the French teacher last
month, yeah.
But we had 2 Spanish teachers retire.
Right,
How
so
is
what
this
we're gonna
working?
do is, our current teacher is also Spanish and French certified. So we're either go Spanish, or we might turn into more French than Spanish.
Okay, gotcha.
So we have options, but the greatest thing and a good feeling of securing 2 people
Yeah.
that I think will fit in this district very well. One is over in France teaching now, and will be coming back after a leave. And one had 10 years of experience. Not to get into too much detail, but she had a situation with her son who had a bad accident and had to take time off to take care of him. And now he's better and she's able to get back into the teaching field. So it was kind of like a perfect fit for us.
Good.
In terms of finding it. And she lives in Cooperstown, which isn't too far away. So somebody who we could probably keep for a while. So
Good.
extremely thrilled that these 2 positions are tough to get, that we were able to get them. There's about 3 pages of Spanish positions open on OWASP right now.
That's what I heard.
So exciting to make sure that,
Yeah.
and us jumping on this and getting those letters back that they say they agree is nice by April, or by the end of March. So.
Okay, do I have a motion? I have a second.
Second.
All in favor? All applaud, yay.
Yay.
Okay, then we got, appoint a coach.
Just an unpaid volunteer assistant who'd like to help out, and again, great that we're getting. So.
Motion,
Motion.
second.
Go ahead.
Okay, all in
One of
favor?
us gotta get this down. Okay.
And finally, a substitute cleaner.
Again, I keep saying this, we're really lucky. We keep getting substitutes to apply, and we'll be more than happy to take them because we always need those positions. Cleaners, maintenance workers, bus drivers, aides, we're really lucky.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to new business. April meeting date. Now, what happened here is that Friday is Good Friday. And so we didn't want to have the meeting on Thursday night, the night before the holiday. So the plan was to move it to Wednesday night. That was current plan. Unfortunately, that conflicts with the BOCES annual meeting. And we usually attend that, and one of the benefits of attending it is all the culinary students at BOCES make a wonderful dinner at that thing, which we get the benefit of eating. But also it's important that all the districts participate at the BOCES meeting. So Nick and I were talking about it, and what we wanted to suggest, if people are on board with it, is to move that board meeting from Wednesday to Monday, the 3rd. Right now it's on the 5th. And we just needed to get people's response.
I won't be able to be there. I have another commitment on that. Yeah, I have something on Mondays.
You have a commitment as well? Okay, well, unless Keith can.
What about Tuesday?
What?
What about Tuesday?
I have an appointment on Tuesday.
I can't make it Tuesday either.
Okay.
So we skip April, is that?
I guess
How
we'll
about we
start
just do the one meeting
What?
how about we just do the one meeting on April 20th?
We have, what do we have in the art department who's presenting? So
Well,
that's
we
the
could
presentation.
skip a presentation that night.
That's just the one.
Yeah, if it's just one,
Yeah. You have to finish the budget, which doesn't seem to be too far off from what we're in. Timing wise. Just making sure we don't miss any deadlines that out of state with all the budget
Or
stuff.
do we just move the meeting of the 20th? Oh, no, that's the weekend.
We're supposed to adopt the budget.
No, we did that at the 20th.
Yeah, we can do it, it's gotta be 7 days before the budget hearing.
Yep.
Or
Look, May 4th.
May 4th.
So that's 2 weeks ahead of time.
We approved that.
We're gonna approve the budget and then we're gonna adopt it.
feel there's any issues leading up, we can let people know, and figure it out if we had to.
So the 20th would be okay?
Or if anything came up. Call me if you have something.
Yeah, there's no positions at this point, right, in terms of anything that we
And
can
that's
fill
the
in.
night, that's the night of the retiree meeting
don't have
too,
anything.
correct? So we're gonna meet at 6:30 that evening?
Correct.
Correct, okay, that sounds good, let's just do that.
Just get everything done in one
Let's
night.
do it all in one night, and then everybody's here, because we all know that we have to be here on the 20th for that special meeting.
Can you remind me when that meeting is that we have in the morning for the voting?
The 26th,
26th of April?
at
Okay.
7:45.
Okay, so,
We can do that virtual
Oh,
too.
there
I
it
don't
is.
know, I don't know, we need a
Guess they
motion
didn't
for
think
that, we
of
can
it.
just, we could just agree that we'll have the meeting on the 20th in April.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Now, one other thing, since we've made that decision, is anyone besides me and Dr. Fitzgerald interested in going to the annual meeting on Wednesday?
Oh my God.
It starts at 6 and there's a short meeting, it lasts maybe a half hour. Just going, it's a business meeting for BOCES
Mhm.
with all the member districts. And then we go ahead and have dinner. So
That's
it's
nice.
not too painful, I can tell you.
I do have to know tonight because they have to set their schedule
Okay,
and the
I
culinary
can go.
students.
Oh, the numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
all right, so it's three of us.
Okay, sounds good. I'll let them know.
And we should, although you need to go in a separate caucus, I'm going on that. So we should go together.
Okay, sounds good. What time is that?
6 o'clock, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so is there anything for executive session?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'd
Motion
like
to
to,
adjourn,
I'd like to move us to go home.
because I know those kids want to go home.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right, have a good one.
Yeah, you too.